Welcome, everybody. Last night I did a webinar with Alex Frady from Celebrity, and we were not able to record that webinar, but I'm going to give you the full recap here, and this will serve as our replay of that webinar. I want to thank you very much for taking a few minutes of your time to jump on here and learn about one of the 2027 Clarkson cruises. My name is Ryan Joy. I'm class of 2006, a very, very proud Clarkson alum. I also serve as the president of the Southeast alumni chapter or Southeast Florida alumni chapter. So I do an awful lot with Clarkson. I went to reunion this past year. I try to go to Kogo every year, and I just love Clarkson, and I love that we can get people together to do these vacations. It really is a super memorable way to spend your time. So. We started the Clarkson Cruise program in 2025, and we sailed on the Celebrity Reflection to the ABC Islands. There were just about 40 people on that cruise, a little under, but for the most part, that's where we were. And then in 2026, we actually did three different cruises, and we just got back on Friday of last week from the Alaska cruise. It was the third and final of the 2026 year, and we went to Alaska on Celebrity Edge. So we did Celebrity Reflection in 2025, and we had about 40 people. Celebrity Edge in Alaska, a little bit different. We had just under 20 people on that. So both vacations were great. We got lots and lots of positive feedback from both of those trips, and that's one of the reasons why we're going to go ahead with doing another celebrity cruise in 2027. But we also did two other cruises in 2026. We went to Bermuda on a different cruise line, and we went to Tahiti on a different cruise line. So we've been doing an awful lot, and we will continue to do an awful lot as long as people are interested in going. So um, now, as we look towards 2027, we have taken out space on the Celebrity Beyond. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a presentation that will be fun for us to go through. Uh, there we go. So, I want to talk a little bit about Celebrity to start because we have predominantly used Celebrity for these Clarkson cruises. And I guess what I want to make clear is I don't work for Celebrity. And I don't only work with Celebrity, and I don't work for Clarkson either. I am a travel agent that also happens to be a Clarkson alum. And the reason why I have elected over and over again to use Celebrity is because I can really rely on them to maintain my reputation. I can rely on them to give Clarkson alums an incredible vacation experience and not disappoint them. In my line of work, if we have a lot of people go on a cruise and they don't have a good time, that's how I go out of business. So we don't want that. I don't want that. And I can rely heavily upon Celebrity to make sure that everybody has such a great time. I've never had, not to say I've never had any bad feedback or anything, but I can honestly say that we've had very, very positive feedback, universally positive, really, on both celebrity cruises that we've done with a lot of people. So that is that, everything is just elevated a bit on Celebrity. I love the food, I love the drinks, I love the atmosphere, the entertainment. Even the buffet on Celebrity cruises, I think, is much better than what you're going to see on other cruise lines. And I am not a buffet person, but I do like the buffets on Celebrity cruises. So there's a lot to love here about Celebrity. Um, and I guess I'm just to kind of put a pin in this. I'm choosing Celebrity for a lot of our cruises because they guarantee a good experience, or at least I can rely upon them to give a great experience. Um, so let's move on here. So I mentioned that Alex did the presentation last night. That's Alex. And this here is a picture of the magic carpet on the left-hand side, which is featured on the Celebrity Beyond, the cruise ship that we'll be sailing on. And this mainly is a bar that's there when they're in ports where they're tendered, the actual magic carpet will move up and down. We don't have any tender ports on our cruise, which is actually nice. I don't, a tender means that you have to take a small boat from the big boat to the island that you're visiting or whatever, and it's less than ideal. So it's nice that in that situation where you have a tender port, you have this cool feature. It will pretty much remain stationary except for um and as a bar that you can go in and hang out in throughout the cruise. There will be one night during the cruise where they flip it into a specialty dining experience. So we don't know what night that is because they captains and the cruise managers are all kind of trying to find the best day based on weather and things like that. So we won't know until we actually get on the cruise. You can pre-book it in advance, but you won't know what day it's on. So that's a little bit about the magic carpet over there. In terms of what we're going to cover, we are going to talk a bunch about the ship because I want to make sure you're oriented on the place that you're going to be going on vacation. But then we'll also talk about the itinerary, and I guess we won't really do Q&A, but I'll try to, throughout the course of the presentation, talk about the various things that people asked about in last night's questions so that, in last night's session, so that you can have a good idea about that. All right. So the Celebrity Beyond, the cruise is a 7 night Caribbean cruise, April 25th, 2027. Um, I think when we talk about the itinerary, I've been saying that we're going beyond spring break, and that is just sort of me being cute with the Celebrity Beyond name. But when you think about, the ship's named Beyond, but what I want to emphasize is that our dates are at the end of April. So we have gone sort of beyond that core spring break timeframe, which is good from in terms of like the ports being super busy and the ship being overcrowded and all those things. We're past that. So, and we also won't have as many kids on board. So if that's important to you. So we're beyond that peak spring break season. Uh, and I also believe it is a lot like the adult spring break. So you have in your mind what you think of when you hear the phrase spring break. Well, I think we've gone beyond that here, and we have what I would consider to be sort of like the adult spring break. A little more refined, not necessarily the party crowd, but still great drinks and atmosphere for adults to enjoy. And if you want to bring kids, Celebrity does have programming for kids, but not as much as you might have on some other cruise lines. So there's still great pools, there's kids clubs, and there's things for them to do, but those aspects are not emphasized quite as much as they would be on another cruise line. So if we look at the Celebrity Beyond and some of the stats, I want to point out that it is a little bigger than Celebrity Edge. So if you were on Celebrity Edge for the Clarkson Alaska cruise, note that this one's just a touch bigger. Not maybe not in a meaningful way. You may not even notice, but there are a few more passengers. The Edge was 2,900, and you can see the total occupancy for this one could be as much as 32. But the crew is still at 1,400, which pretty much means we're about 2 to 1 crew to guest ratio, or guest to crew ratio. So that is really, really good. The ship's just a little bit longer. And I want to point out that during our sailing, we are going to be sailing April 25th through May 2nd. The ship will have a 5-year birthday because the maiden voyage was April 27, 2022. Now, I don't know if they're going to do anything sort of special on that day, but it is kind of cool that the birthday for the ship is during our cruise. So maybe we'll do something special even if they don't. And it is fun if you follow the Olympics. Simone Biles is the godmother of the Celebrity Beyond, which it was probably not something that you're going to even notice throughout the cruise, but it's fun to point out. So, okay, let's talk about some of the different venues on the cruise ship. So, we'll sort of start top right, and we'll go clockwise. At the top is the Martini Bar. Martini Bar is sort of the central hub of the ship. In previous classes of celebrity ships, the Martini Bar was, of course, present, and it was sort of on the side. But that venue has gotten so popular that they have actually moved it to the very dead center of the ship, and it is something that you can view from 3 different floors. And I will say this, I am not a big traditional martini fan, but there are dessert martinis and different things here. So if you love a traditional martini or you love a sweet martini, you're going to find something here at the Martini Bar. And for that reason, it is often a place that you'll find Clarkson alums gathered, perhaps before dinner or before the entertainment or whatever. It's a really cool thing. And they also do at night, sort of in that, I would say about 8 o'clock time frame, probably after the first show, as people, things like that. They're they have this big demonstration where they can do like they can make like 20 martinis at one time. So it's kind of like a bar with a show in that aspect. So that's Martini Bar. As you move down to the bottom right, this is the club. And it is basically it's an entertainment venue. When we were in Alaska, they did a couple of lectures on different animals there, but we also did trivia there. There'll be music in there, cover bands and things like that. So it's sort of a multi-use space. There is a bar there on the side, but very, very good spot for you to hang out. I'm sure there'll be some programming there. When we were on Celebrity Edge in Alaska, we went to the club and as a unit, we fielded a couple of different trivia teams and we won the famous people trivia. So that was a fun memory from the Clarkson Alaska cruise that took place in the club. In the dead center of the slide is the lawn club. You can see here there's plenty of outdoor seating. We're up top of the ship. They'll have movies on in that big screen 24/7. So a very fun place to hang out. Bottom left is Eden Bar. This is a very cool three-floor space to hang out in. There will be entertainment there. It's a cocktail bar. I will say the cocktails exceed the price of the drink package, even if you have the premium drink package, but only by like $2. So you end up paying like $2 for this amazing cocktail that they do. The presentation is so perfect. I will say so if we were at the Martini Bar before dinner, a lot of times you'd find Clarkson alum at Eden after dinner, just kind of catching up and enjoying each other's company. Upper left is sort of a reimagined Sunset Bar. So when they built Edge, all celebrity ships have a Sunset Bar off the back of the ship. In this one, they made it much on the Beyond. Made it much bigger, and you can see that space there. And you can see you can walk down, and there's even more tables there. So great spaces on the edge for hangout. The Sunset Bar is super popular for Caribbean cruises. It was a little less so for the Alaska cruise when it was a bit colder. So, but it's a great space to hang out if when the weather is amazing. So let's move on. There's more spaces. The pool, which you can see on both the bottom right and on the left-hand side, is a bit longer than it was on Celebrity Edge, and I'm sure it'll be used a lot more than it was in Alaska. But great pool space you can see here on the ship. On the right-hand side at the top, that is actually a smoker's lounge. So if you do smoke, there is a spot for you. And if on the second one, the picture down, that is an infinity pool that sort of hangs off the side of the ship. So very cool space to hang out. If you're into pools and stuff, like that might be a fun place to go find and see. It's like got that glass the whole side of it, so you'll be able to see out into the ocean as we go down. Okay, some more spaces that you'll definitely find yourself. The center picture is Martini Bar once again, just from a different angle, the center bottom. The top right is the World Class Bar. We had that on Celebrity Reflection, but it was not on Celebrity Edge. So when they built the Edge, made it a little bigger, that was a venue that came back. And then upper right is the theater. I loved this theater, and they have some really good shows at the theater. Um, there's like a Broadway style show. There is like an Elements show that goes through the different elements. There's some great shows here, but what I like about the theater is that you see that great big screen in the back. That is a gorgeous panoramic screen. The chairs, they're spread differently than they are on other cruise ships. I think that they're a little bit wider, a little bit more spacious. Definitely room for everybody in the theater. I really enjoyed this theater over many of the other ones that I've seen on other cruise ships. So I like that a lot. And then there's a couple of other images of food and drink here on the page. Now, let's talk about the main dining because on the Celebrity Edge class ship, there are four main dining rooms: Cyprus, Normandy, Cosmopolitan, and Tuscan. Now, they all are going to serve the exact same menu, but of course, you can see the theming and the decor is a little different as it goes through. But then each dining room is also going to have a signature dish. Now, the signature dish can be not purchased. It's included in the main dining room. But the signature dishes from each of the restaurants can be ordered at any of the restaurants. So what'll happen is you'll get your core menu for, say, Cyprus if you're dining there, and then they'll have an additional menu that includes the exclusives from the other places. So you can order from both. You can get an appetizer from Normandy and then get your main from Cyprus or whatever you want to do. That's totally fine. So what'll happen is we will likely get all assigned to a specific dining room. And then if you want to go to a different one night or something like that, you can do that. But you can show up to the same dining room, have the same dining staff every night, and then order from all of the different places. That's what most people normally do. But, undoubtedly, if you want to have a date night or something like that and get away from the group, you are more than welcome to go to any of the restaurants. And we had people do that on the Alaska cruise, and it was absolutely easy for them to get in with pretty much no wait. So, um, I love this dining concept where they have four different experiences that you can have. If you happen to book into Celebrities Retreat, which is their suites, or you book into the Aqua class, those are going to have their own specialty dining that you can go to yourself. So Lumine is for those in the retreat. Blue is for those in Aqua class. So you can go to those if and only if you book into those class staterooms. In addition to the main dining that is included, there are a number of specialty restaurants on Celebrity Beyond. So you have, here are five of them. Eden, I mentioned, is that space that it's like three floors and it's a bar. It's where you can find us sort of after dinner. It also has on the first floor, it has a restaurant. The restaurant is free for breakfast and lunch. So that's a pro tip. You can go there and enjoy a delicious breakfast or lunch there. But at dinner time, it is a specialty restaurant. There's a bunch of different other restaurants that you can see on the page. I'll mention quickly Le Voyage by Danielle Boulud. Danielle Boulud has some restaurants in Paris and Tokyo and New York, and it costs a lot of money to go to those. So if you are interested in going to a restaurant by a world-renowned chef at a reduced price, because it's a specialty restaurant, they do charge, but it's nothing like what you're going to pay in New York, Tokyo, or Paris. So that is an option for you at Le Voyage. Celebrity Cruises is the exclusive partner of Daniel Boulud. So it's a good opportunity to do that if you want that sort of high class dining. Bottom left, I'll mention Le Petit Chef. Le Petit Chef is a projection style. So it's like a dinner and a show where they project a sort of animation onto the plates and the table, and you have this chef that is preparing your food. And then once this little show is over, then the food that the chef literally just prepared is plated in front of you, and then you enjoy. So it's a cutesy thing to do. Particularly if you do bring kids on there, I think it's a fun thing for them as well as for adults. Raw on Five. Okay, the one thing about Raw on Five upper left is that it is an a la carte menu. All of the other specialty dining is a cover charge. So you pay a certain amount and you go and you enjoy what you want. At Raw on Five, it is a la carte though. So you pay for what you want. Okay, verandas. We need to talk about veranda, which is the fancy way of saying balconies on the Edge class ships. They have predominantly, almost exclusively, this infinite veranda concept. Now, you don't have a walkout balcony in this situation. What you do have, though, is the same balcony space that you would normally have, except instead of it being walkout, the the it is enclosed and it's in your room, and you can see how this woman is standing there with her arms on the window. The top part of that window comes down, and it essentially makes your entire room a balcony in that situation. So I loved this concept on Edge, and I'll tell you why. A lot of times I book a balcony stateroom and I don't go on the balcony. I love to have it for the fresh air and the things. I'll go on the balcony every single day, but I'm not using that space consistently. When you have the infinite veranda, it makes your whole stateroom like that much bigger, and that balcony space is usable at all times. So I absolutely love it. There is going to be blinds that come down with the push of a button, and the window comes down up and down at the push of a button. So very simple to use. You can get as much fresh air as you want and then raise it back up. In the cold weather climates, this thing is down all the time. In the warm weather, you'll probably put it down, take it up, to your desire. So I loved this infinite veranda concept. I loved having all that extra space in the room with us. So that is what the infinite veranda. So that we have a number of those in our room block. So if you're interested in that, that's definitely what I would recommend. Okay, we've talked a lot about the ship at this point. Let's talk about where we're going. So, this is a 7 night Eastern Caribbean itinerary, April 25th, 2027, starting and ending in Fort Lauderdale. You have a day at sea right at the beginning, which I love, love, love starting with a day at sea because you kind of have all this build up to your vacation. And you have that first night is a little hectic because you're packing or or you're unpacking and all that stuff. To have the next day, you can sleep in a little bit if you want. You can try the main dining room for breakfast. You can do anything you want on that first day, but you don't have to be anywhere. And I like that on your first day of vacation. You can look at the itinerary and say, oh, trivia at 10 a.m. That sounds great. Or I'll watch the movie up on the top deck at 3 p.m. Whatever it is you want to do that day, you have it. So I love having a first day at sea. And then we roll into those 3 days in port where we go to the Dominican, we go to St. Thomas, and we go to St. Kitts. So we'll talk about each of those in a little bit more detail in a second. But then after we do our 3 intensive port days, where you can see we're in port for the majority of every day, then we have 2 more at sea days, and I'd love to do like a farewell cocktail party or something on the last night, the day 7. And after you're in port for those 3 days, it's really nice to have a couple of sea days. You can maybe you want to go to the spa and get a massage or whatever because you did a hike in St. Kitts, or you want to, whatever it is that you're wanting to do with your vacation. Having those sea days, I think, is just such a good use of time to step away, relax, read a book, go to the pool, all the things. I love a sea day. If you're a casino person, there will be a casino on board there. You can make your donation to Celebrity Cruises on. So I like to go play the slots, but I do treat it as a donation because I feel like that's what it is. All right, Dominican. We start in the Dominican Republic. Listen, if you haven't been to the Dominican or Puerto Plata in the last few years, I gotta tell you, they have done a lot of work to make the port itself a super cool destination. They have their in port, and it's like maybe from ship, walking off the ship to this location. It's like maybe a 15-minute walk. They have pools, cabanas, chairs, even a lazy river, lots of shade. So it is, of course, a duty-free shop that you'll get to walk through. So they have all that that's kind of built right into the port without you even having to take an excursion. But all 3 of our ports are going to have amazing beaches. They're going to have ATVs. They're going to have snorkeling and catamarans and all those things and golf. All 3 ports have those types of things, but in Puerto Plata in specific, you don't even have to leave the port to have a really fun day. You can go right into port and go with the lazy river. I myself will want to go do some excursion and then I'll want to come back and go through that lazy river. So you can see we are in port starting at 7 a.m. Ship leaves at 3. So you want to be back on board no later than 2:30. And what a great port to start things off with in the Dominican. Now, St. Thomas, different animal, but has some of the world's best beaches. If you go find a list of the world's best beaches, you're going to have at least one from St. Thomas on that list. So when we pull into St. Thomas, we are not going to be in a spot where you can just walk right off and be in the city or whatever. You have a little bit of space there, so you may want to do an excursion or take a taxi into a city area, but you can see we're there for a good chunk of time from 11 to 7 p.m. You can take those little sky bucket things over to a different side of the island. And well, what a great destination, St. Thomas. This is the United States, right? It's the U.S. Virgin Islands. So a great spot to go for beaches and things like that. And like I said, horseback riding, all these things that you can do over these three ports. It's a very, very Caribbean focused itinerary with the Dominican and St. Thomas. And then we have Basseterre, St. Kitts, which, look, you're going to walk off. You're going to be in this little town. You're going to have the port shops and things like that. But then as you leave port, it looks like this top right corner. You're not going to have a lot of buildings. You're not going to have a lot of infrastructure. It's focused on beaches and things like that. All the different things that you associate with it. Again, ATVs, horseback riding, zip lining on some of these ports. There's lots of things that you can do to have like the best summer day in April. So we're focused on going beyond spring break. Um, and then, of course, some of these ports, they also have things like cigar rolling and they have chocolate tours and they have rum tours. So anything that you kind of associate with the Caribbean, you're going to find in these three ports. And they're beautiful destinations. And I can't wait to go with them. You take the most beautiful ship you can imagine, the Celebrity Beyond, and you go sailing to these three beautiful Caribbean ports. What a great way to spend your vacation, I think. If you have questions about these ports, I'll be more than happy to answer those. Just shoot me an email. I can look at the excursions that are offered prior to you booking. So if you have questions about different things that might be offered, hey, Ryan, is there a catamaran snorkeling? How much does it cost? Those kind of things. I can give you an idea of that before you even book. So do feel free to reach out to me and we can talk through those things. Um, if you're coming from out of town, and most everybody is, right? And if you don't live in Florida, you're going to have to do a flight. I will just mention that you can book your flights through Celebrity. They have basically what's called bulk pricing. So they have purchased seats on a number of seats on planes at a discounted rate. And what is nice about them is that you can book that, but you don't have to make the payment until final payment, which is very different than what most cruise lines. Let me back up. It's different than what normally occurs. If you book a cruise, you have a cruise contract with a final payment date, but whenever you book a flight, you got to pay for that thing right then. With this, you don't have to. You can pay for it later. So that is the one benefit. It's one of the benefits, I guess, that and the bulk pricing. You do get points for your airlines, so you don't have to give those up. So something to think about if you're interested, you can get that sort of included in. I'll mention also that Celebrity does not have like hotel packages for Fort Lauderdale pre and post, but I will absolutely work with you to get those booked as well. If you're interested, I do recommend if you're flying to come in the day before at least. And if you're spending multiple days in Fort Lauderdale, I do have a number of opinions about the hotels there because I think there's some that should be winners because they're trusted brands, and I don't actually like them very much. So I have opinions on these hotels. So I definitely I would love to help you on that. Okay, if you decide to book this cruise, we have a special booking window from August 24th through September 14th, where if you book a veranda or higher, you get $100 on board credit to spend on what you like. So I like to, personally, I like to use that to purchase my upgraded drink package or things like that. But I also want to say this. If you decide that you've listened to this tonight and you decide, I think I would like to try a celebrity cruise, but I can't make those dates work or whatever, any sailing 4 night or longer, this $100 OBC offer exists. So you just reach out to me, let me know, and I would be happy to help you get on any celebrity cruise and get this OBC offer. So um, this is just a great incentive for people to book or to take action relatively quickly on booking this cruise. Okay, here is our pricing, and I think this pricing is terrific. You can starting out less than $2,000 a person if you want to book an inside stateroom. That's a really good deal. Um, Ocean view stateroom, $2,000 basically per person, and an infinite veranda, 2,458 per person. Now, I secured these rates ages ago, and that is one of the ways I work to try to save some money for all of you. As soon as the rates come out, I'm there hitting the keyboard trying to find you a great cruise at a reduced price. So I've done that. I did that like 2 years ago. So um, here's what it includes. It includes all, your stateroom, your main dining, all that stuff. It also includes the classic drinks and Wi-Fi package. Now, the classic drinks is going to cover you on drinks up to about $12. So that's going to include your some alcohol. It's going to include also sodas and teas and specialty coffees at Cafe Al Baccio and things like that. Um, Also, there is a premium package for drinks that you can add on afterwards that takes that up to $19. And I think, to me, most people always get that. It's relatively inexpensive to add on. The basic Wi-Fi that comes is great for your social media apps or maybe your email. It is not good for streaming. So there's a very inexpensive upgrade there that you can do as well. And you can then be able to watch a movie if you want to. So I always get the premium Wi-Fi, especially get the premium Wi-Fi. But if I think I'm going to have like a martini at the martini bar, those drinks are $19. Just one or two of those per day, and you're going to have your break even on the premium drinks package. So what I all that's to say is that if you book between now and September 14th, you'll get this $100 onboard credit, and that it's not going to cover the entire cost of your premium drinks and Wi-Fi upgrade, but it's going to take a good chunk out of it. I always like to use that rate as part of that. Um, so it's a great little package, I think. Now, um, once again, if you were to go onto Celebrity's website and maybe you saw a price that was lower than this, uh, I assure you that if you add the classic drinks and the Wi-Fi on, you'll notice that the prices go up. The lead-in price on the website is going to be a non-refundable room where you don't get to pick non-refundable deposit. You don't get to pick your stateroom, and it doesn't have the classic drinks and Wi-Fi. Our package is going to have a refundable deposit. You get the drinks and the Wi-Fi, and you choose your room. So there you go. So that's the difference between the price that you see on the website and the price that you see here. And I want to make that clear just in case some people go out and see that it's different. If you're Once you add the perks in, then it becomes a very, very strong value. Okay, when I think about some of the questions that came up last night, I've covered a lot of those as we go through in terms of like the hotels and how the flights work and the pricing and things like that. But if you have questions after listening to me talk for however long I've been talking, um, feel free to reach out. My email address is ryanjoy at creatingmagicvacations with an S.com. My phone number is 315-212-9775. You can feel free to reach out to me at either of those. I am happy to help you with anything that you need in order to feel confident to go ahead and book this cruise and join us for spring break or beyond spring break in 2027. Once again, it's April 25th through May 2nd with 3 stops in the Caribbean, Dominican, St. Thomas, St. Kitts, 3 days at sea for all those relaxing days, for the massages, for the bingo, for the casino, for all the things that you may want to do on those days. There'll be great entertainment along the way, and you have a get-in price of as low as 1786. So I love sailing with Clarkson alums. I have done it now 4 times, and each time seems to get better than the last. And I really hope to see you on the next one. Let's go, Tech.